Hi, and welcome to your at-home beginner's guide to Pilates. Today we're going to be talking about the three key principles of Pilates: alignment, breathing, and core engagement. All three are super important when you're practicing Pilates to make sure that you're getting the most out of your exercises and that you're moving safely with control and good form. So let's talk about the first principle, which is alignment. When we are stood on the mat, or even off the mat, we want to make sure that we are stood with our feet hip distance apart. So a lot of people think hip distance apart is a little bit wider than it actually is. One way to check is by bringing the heels together like so, splaying the feet out to the sides, and then stepping the heels out so that the feet are parallel. That will ensure that you're stood with your feet hip distance apart. Another way to check is by placing your fist between your knees. It should slot in there nicely. And when our feet are hip distance apart, we know that our ankles and our knees and our hips are lined up, so we're creating columns of support running up through the lower body. We also want to make sure that the weight is evenly distributed across the feet, so you're nice and stable, and that your knees have that sort of soft bend in them. They're never locked out. Moving up, focusing on the pelvis, we want to make sure that our pelvis is in neutral. This is important because the position of our pelvis directly correlates with the position of our low back, i.e. our lumbar spine. So when your pelvis, I'll just take a side view, is in neutral, you've got that natural bit of curvature, that natural bit of extension in the lumbar spine, which is what we want. You'll notice that when people stand with their pelvis tilted forward, that curvature is really exaggerated, the bum sticks out, and that can create a lot of strain in the low back. Similarly, when people stand with their pelvis tilted back, sort of the hips jutting out and the bum flattened, you lose that curvature in the lumbar spine, which can also create a lot of strain. So we want that pelvis in neutral so that the low back is happy. Now, we're going to work through a couple of pelvic tilts so that you get an understanding about what your spine feels like in those different positions. So I'd like you to stand with your feet hip distance apart, hands on hips. We're going to inhale, tilt the pelvis forward, really exaggerate the movement, stick your bum out behind you, and then tilt your pelvis back as though you were tucking a tail, pushing your hips forward. So inhale, tilt the pelvis back, really stick the bum out behind you, exaggerate the movement, and then tilt the pelvis back, pushing the hips out, flattening the bum. Inhale forward, exhale backward. Notice how your spine feels different in the different positions as you rock forward and backward. Amazing work. Now for a piece of visualization, I'd like you to envision your pelvis like a bowl of water. So imagine the bowl of water is full. When your pelvis tilts forward, you'd be spilling water over the fronts of your thighs, and when your pelvis tilts backward, you'd be spilling water over the backs of your thighs. So imagine that full bowl of water. I'm going to take a side view again. Hands are on the hips, and you're going to work through these with me. So we're going to tilt the pelvis forward, spilling water over the fronts of the thighs, and then tilt the pelvis back, spilling water over the backs of the thighs. So forward and backward. Really exaggerate, pouring a lot of water over the fronts of the thighs and a lot of water over the backs of the thighs. Now I want you to slowly start to decrease that range of movement, so you're just tilting a little bit, spilling a little bit of water over the fronts and the backs of the thighs. Continue to decrease that range of motion more and more, so those tilts are getting smaller and smaller, and just a little bit of water is trickling over the fronts and the backs of the thighs. Continue to decrease the range of movement until the bowl is not moving at all and it's in that steady upright position. Now you've got your pelvis in neutral and your low back in neutral. Amazing work. Moving up through the body, focusing on the shoulders. A lot of people have the tendency, if they're working or stressed, to hunch the shoulders forward. This creates short, tight chest muscles and long, slack upper back muscles, and it can create a lot of tension and pain in the back. So what we want to aim for is bringing the shoulders so that the chest is nice and open. Now, when your shoulders are hunched forward, you'll notice that the backs of your hands come forward too. So one way to correct this shoulder position is by taking the middle fingers and lining them up either with the real seams running down the side of your leggings or your pants. And if you don't have seams, just find the midline of the leg. So that middle finger, those middle fingers are lined up with the midline of the leg. As soon as we move those hands into that position, the chest is nice and open and the upper back muscles are engaged. So that's a nice little postural checkpoint you can do when you're at home as well, when you're moving around your house. If your hands are forward, you know your shoulders are also forward. Bring those hands to the side and it'll feel a lot better. Moving up, we want to make sure that our chin is parallel with the floor. And we don't want the head to be forward. So the head is very heavy. If the head is too far forward, it creates a lot of strain in the back of the neck. Similarly, if the head is too far back, we get a lot of pressure and strain as well. So we want the head rested atop the shoulders, chin parallel with the floor. Moving up, thinking about the crown of the head, elevating up toward the ceiling. So imagine you have a string running up your spine, up through the crown of your head, elongating and lifting you toward the ceiling. So remember all of those checkpoints both on and off the mat, and it will really help you to alleviate any of those aches and pains as well as form problems when you're exercising. So the next Pilates principle we're going to focus on is breathing. So in Pilates, we don't breathe into the chest or the belly, we breathe into the back of the rib cage, which is called lateral breathing. So we breathe in through the nose and we expand the back of the rib cage, and as we exhale through the mouth, we deflate the rib cage. I like to think about it as a balloon inside my rib cage. As I breathe in through the nose, I'm filling up the balloon, and as I exhale through the mouth, I'm deflating that balloon. As we breathe out through the mouth, we want to breathe out through pursed lips. This helps to control the breath, to keep it even and steady. So we breathe in slowly and we breathe out slowly. This will really help when you're exerting yourself as well, to help you to control your breathing. So let's take a couple of practice breaths. We're going to imagine that balloon in the rib cage. We're going to breathe in through the nose and out through the mouth. In through the nose, expanding that balloon, and out through the mouth, deflating that balloon. Let's take a couple more breaths. Last one. Nicely done. Now, if you feel like your shoulders were really hunching up as you were concentrating on your breath, I want you to make sure that you're relaxing those shoulders. We'll take a couple more practice breaths with relaxed shoulders, inhaling and exhaling. One more breath, inhaling, and relax the shoulders as you exhale. Nicely done. Our third principle of Pilates is core engagement. This one's really important. So when we are exhaling or exerting ourselves in Pilates, we want to make sure that we are engaging the abdominal wall. We are drawing the belly button toward the spine. So I want you for a moment just to pull your belly button in toward your spine as much as you possibly can. So pull it in, pull it in, pull it in. Notice what that feels like. Now release. Now, for a little visualization, I'd like you to imagine that you have a belt or a corset around your waist. I'd like you to draw that belt, that imaginary belt, as tightly as you can. Let's say there's 10 notches on the belt and you're going to that final notch. You're really pulling the abs in. Now I'd like you to release that belt maybe to the 7th notch. So you're loosening the engagement slightly. And then I'd like you to release it further to about the 5th notch. So you're at about 50% abdominal engagement. That's what you're aiming for during your exercise as you breathe out. So now let's combine that with the breath. So in Pilates, as we breathe in, our abdominals are relatively relaxed, and as we breathe out, we're tightening that core, getting that 50% abdominal engagement. The reason for this being that when we breathe out in Pilates, that tends to be where the exertion or the maximum exertion is happening. And if we're not stabilizing, we're not tightening through the core, we could harm our low back. Aesthetically, we don't want to build our abdominal muscles out. So as we breathe out, we flatten the abdominal wall so that we build those nice flat abdominals. So let's take a couple practice breaths. We're going to breathe in through the nose. Abdominals are relatively relaxed. And then exhale through the mouth, drawing the abdominals in. Good. In through the nose, relaxing the abs. And out through the mouth, keeping those abdominals flat throughout the entire exhale. Take a couple more practices, inhaling and exhale. Abs are flat throughout the entire exhale. Inhale and exhale. Draw the belly button toward the spine. Nicely done. Now, if your shoulders are bunched up, relax them for these final couple of breaths. Inhale. Exhale, core engages, shoulders relaxed. Last practice breath. Inhale through the nose and exhale through the mouth, drawing the belly button toward the spine, melting the shoulders down. Amazing work. Okay, so when we're thinking about engagement, we also want to be thinking about our pelvic floor muscles. Now, when you first get into Pilates, the concentration of having to engage your abs and your pelvic floor at the same time can be a lot. So as long as you're engaging your abs to begin with, you can start building in that pelvic floor engagement, and I'm going to explain how that works. So when we think about our pelvic floor muscles, we think about those muscles that we would use if we were trying to prevent ourselves from going to the bathroom. I like to think about it as like a little elevator inside my body. So if you think about lifting those pelvic floor muscles, I want you to think about pulling them up. So draw them up, 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 as though it was a little elevator inside your body going up, up, up. Pull them up as far as you can. Imagine that's the 10th and highest floor. Now release. Good. Now we're going to focus on that again, but we're going to breathe in through the nose. And then as we exhale, we're going to draw that little elevator up, 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 up to the 10th and highest floor. Good work. And let it release. Nice practice. Now we're going to try that again. We're going to bring that elevator or lift those pelvic floor muscles up as high as they can go, and then we're going to slowly start to release them. So inhale to prepare. Exhale, start lifting those pelvic floor muscles up, up, up inside your body as much as they can go to that 10th and highest floor. Now I want you to release them. Release that elevator down to about the 7th floor. Now down to about the 5th floor. So that's 50% pelvic floor engagement. That's what we're aiming for. You can relax as we breathe out in Pilates. So we'll practice a couple breaths like that. We're going to inhale in through the nose. Pelvic floor muscles are relaxed. And as we exhale, we're lifting that pelvic floor to about 50% engagement. Nicely done. Inhale, release. Exhale, lift those pelvic floor muscles to 50% engagement. Inhale, release. Exhale, lift the pelvic floor muscles. Inhale and exhale. Nicely done. Now we need to combine that with our abdominal engagement. So it's a lot to think about, but we'll practice a few together. So we're going to inhale to prepare. And as we exhale, we're drawing the belly button in toward the spine and lifting those pelvic floor muscles at the same time. Inhale, relax. Exhale, engage the core and lift the pelvic floor muscles. Nice. Inhale, release. Exhale, engage. Two more. Inhale. And exhale, relax your shoulders. Inhale and exhale, draw everything in and up. Amazing work. So those were the three key principles of Pilates: alignment, breathing, and core engagement. I'm going to be reminding you of all the principles throughout our beginners exercises. It's going to really help you to get the most out of your Pilates practice. I'm looking forward to starting the beginner series with you.